On a quiet country road in May 1983, a maroon Nissan Pulsar raced through the darkness toward a hospital in Springfield, Oregon, its headlights slicing through the night. The car's engine roared as it sped down the empty lanes, carrying a mother and her 3 children toward an uncertain fate. Inside, Diane Downs claimed a stranger had ambushed them and shot her 3 children, shattering the silence of the night with violence. The story she told was chilling. A shaggy-haired man appeared out of nowhere, flagged them down, and then, without warning, opened fire on the family. But as investigators would soon learn, the real danger may have been inside the car all along, hidden behind a mother's calm facade. The song "Hungry Like the Wolf" played on the radio as Diane drove through the night, her children bleeding and crying beside her, the music a haunting backdrop to the horror unfolding in the back seat. At the hospital, chaos erupted. Doctors and nurses rushed to save the children, their small bodies covered in blood, as Diane recounted her story to anyone who would listen. Cheryl, age 7, was dead. Danny, just 3 years old, was paralyzed from the waist down, his life forever changed in an instant. Christy, 8, suffered a massive stroke and couldn't speak, her young mind locked inside her injured body. Diane had only a minor wound on her arm and seemed oddly calm, almost detached, as doctors fought desperately for her children's lives just a few feet away. Her account was detailed, but something felt off. Her lack of emotion, her composure, and the way she recounted the events with chilling precision. The community panicked, fearing a madman was on the loose, and parents kept their children close, terrified that the shooter might strike again. Police launched a massive manhunt for the mysterious stranger and his supposed yellow car, combing the countryside for any sign of the killer, but found nothing. Physical evidence didn't match Diane's story. There was no sign of another car, no footprints in the dirt, no evidence of a struggle at the scene. The only certainty was the tragedy that struck 3 innocent children on a lonely, forgotten road, leaving a community in shock. As days passed and the investigation deepened, suspicion began to shift toward Diane herself, her story unraveling under scrutiny. Investigators noticed her demeanor, her repeated media appearances, and her unshakable composure in the face of tragedy. She pleaded for help on TV, but her words rang hollow to detectives who saw something unsettling in her performance. They saw a performance, not a grieving mother, and began to question everything she said. The story of a random attack was unraveling, replaced by a growing suspicion that the truth was far more disturbing. The real key to the case, they realized, might be sitting right in front of them, hiding in plain sight. Diane's story was beginning to fall apart, and the search for answers was only just beginning. Who was Diane Downs? A mother, a daughter, a woman whose life would spiral into infamy. Her story is one of heartbreak, obsession, and ultimately, tragedy. To understand that fateful night, we must look back at the winding path that led her there, a path marked by pain and longing. Born in Phoenix, Arizona, Diane described a troubled childhood, marked by strict rules and emotional distance. She later claimed abuse by her father, a shadow that would haunt her for years. She married Steve Downs, and together they had 3 children, Christy, Cheryl, and Danny. But the marriage was rocky from the start, plagued by infidelity, arguments, and constant instability. After divorcing Steve, Diane packed up her children and moved to Oregon, hoping for a fresh start. She found work at the Postal Service, but the promise of a new life quickly faded. Her new life wasn't about her kids, it was about a man, Robert "Nick" Knickerbocker, a married co-worker from Arizona who had captured her heart and imagination. Diane became obsessed with Nick, writing him passionate letters and filling her diaries with fantasies of a life together, convinced he was her soulmate. But Nick made it clear he didn't want children and had no intention of leaving his wife. He tried to distance himself, but Diane refused to let go. To Diane, her children became an obstacle to her fantasy life with Nick. The love she once had for them was overshadowed by her obsession. The move to Oregon was less a new beginning and more a calculated retreat, a way to escape her past and chase a future that existed only in her mind. Diane convinced herself that if her children were gone, Nick would finally be hers. It was a chilling, desperate logic. Investigators would later uncover her diaries, revealing a disturbing, calculated motive behind her actions. Pages filled with longing and cold determination. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a plan, born from obsession, carefully plotted and chilling in its intent. The road to tragedy was paved with letters, phone calls, and a single, desperate desire that consumed Diane's every thought. Diane's children were no longer her priority. They were in the way of the life she believed she deserved. and she was willing to do anything to get it. The events of that May night were not a sudden snap, but the result of a cold, selfish decision that had been building for months. The truth, when it finally came to light, was darker and more twisted than anyone could have imagined. In the aftermath, Diane Downs became a media fixture. She gave interviews, often smiling as she described the attack. Her lack of grief and focus on herself unsettled viewers and police alike. Detective Doug Welch quickly saw holes in her story. She claimed to drive slowly, but witnesses saw her speeding. No evidence of a struggle, no sign of another car, just shell casings inside the vehicle. Forensics showed the shots came from inside the car, not outside. Diane's diary, seized by police, revealed her obsession with Nick and her frustration with her children. She saw them as obstacles, not blessings. Blood spatter and gunpowder evidence contradicted her tale of a stranger. The shaggy-haired man was looking more like a phantom. The story was collapsing under the weight of its own lies. Investigators knew the truth was much closer to home. Detectives dug deeper, traveling to Arizona to interview Diane's ex-husband and Nick. Steve Downs confirmed Diane owned a .22 caliber handgun, the murder weapon. Diane claimed she sold it, but couldn't provide details. Nick confirmed the affair and his refusal to be a father to her kids. He handed over obsessive letters from Diane, further revealing her state of mind. Back in Oregon, an anonymous tip led police to a hidden .22 caliber gun in Diane's home. Ballistics matched it to the shooting. The weapon had been there all along. Meanwhile, Diane's behavior grew stranger. Posing for photos, calling Nick from the hospital in an upbeat tone. She seemed more concerned with her image than her children's welfare. The cracks in her story became chasms. The truth was finally surfacing. At the heart of this tragedy was Diane's obsession with Nick Knickerbocker. To Diane, Nick was everything. Her children were obstacles. Her diaries and letters revealed a relentless, one-sided love. When Nick ended the affair, Diane refused to let go. She saw her children as baggage, and her solution was chillingly simple: remove them. This was not a crime of passion, but a calculated plan. She bought the gun, crafted the story, and chose a deserted road. Each step was deliberate, aimed at winning Nick's affection. Nick's testimony in court exposed Diane's obsession and motive. He read her letters aloud, showing the jury the depth of her fixation. He was the unwitting catalyst in a tragedy he never could have imagined. His testimony was crucial in revealing Diane's dark world. The prosecution's case was strong, built on evidence and suspicion, but it lacked a direct witness, until Christy began to recover. After months of therapy and gentle encouragement, Christy, just 8 years old, finally found her voice. She began to recall the events of that terrible night, and slowly, the truth emerged from her memories. There was no mysterious stranger, only her mother, the person she trusted most. In careful, painstaking sessions, Christy bravely told prosecutors, "My mom shot me, my mom shot Danny, my mom shot Cheryl." Her words were clear, unwavering. Her testimony became the final devastating piece of the puzzle that prosecutors needed to complete their case. At just 9 years old, Christy faced her mother in court, surrounded by strangers and the weight of the truth. In a quiet, steady voice, she recounted how Diane pulled the car over, took out a gun, and shot her own children in the darkness. She looked directly at her mother as she spoke, the woman who was supposed to protect her, not harm her. Diane showed no remorse, only denial, shaking her head at her daughter's words, refusing to accept the truth. Christy's testimony was raw, honest, and utterly heartbreaking. It sealed Diane's fate in the eyes of the court. Christy became the voice for her lost sister and her paralyzed brother, speaking for those who could not. Her courage in that courtroom was extraordinary, a testament to her strength and resilience. The jury was visibly moved by her bravery and the clarity of her words, many struggling to hold back tears. The truth, spoken by a child, was impossible to ignore. Diane's performance was over, her lies exposed. Justice was finally within reach, thanks to the courage of a little girl who dared to speak the truth. Diane Downs' trial began in May 1984, drawing national attention. Diane arrived each day smiling, treating the trial like a stage. Her behavior contrasted sharply with the gravity of the charges. The prosecution presented the gun, diaries, and Nick's testimony, but Christy's words, "My mom shot us," were the most powerful. Diane took the stand, delivering a dramatic, tearless performance. She denied everything, even as evidence mounted. In a final twist, Diane became pregnant during the trial, hoping for sympathy. She believed a jury wouldn't convict a pregnant woman, but the jury saw through her manipulation. On June 17, 1984, Diane was found guilty on all counts. Her performance had failed. Diane Downs was sentenced to life plus 50 years. Even in prison, she sought attention, escaping briefly in 1987 before being recaptured. The baby she conceived during the trial was adopted and renamed Becky, growing up in a loving home. Christy and Danny were adopted by prosecutor Fred Hughey and his wife, finally finding safety and love. They rebuilt their lives in private, away from the media glare. Their resilience stands as a powerful rebuke to Diane's actions. Diane remains in prison, denied parole, still claiming innocence. She continues to tell her story, casting herself as the victim. She shows no remorse for her daughter's death or her surviving children's suffering. Her legacy is one of pain and selfishness. But the true legacy is the survival and strength of Christy and Danny. They are living proof that hope can emerge from tragedy. The case remains a chilling reminder of obsession's destructive power. The Diane Downs case is more than a true crime story. It's a disturbing look at the darkness within. It forces us to confront the terrifying idea that a mother can become the ultimate threat. Yet, it's also a story of courage. Detectives who pursued the truth, a prosecutor who opened his home, and a child who spoke out. The echoes of that night in 1983 still linger. Evil doesn't always look like a stranger, sometimes it wears a familiar face. This case challenges our assumptions about love and family. It reminds us to listen when a story doesn't add up, and to protect the vulnerable. The story of Diane Downs is a dark chapter, but one we must remember. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into a chilling case. For more true crime stories, subscribe to our channel. See you next time.